Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to talk start collecting Kings of War, and today we're going to take a look at the Undead army set. Now in this video, we're going to take a look at the Undead, what we can build out of the different units in this box, how we can build up these units as well, and briefly what they all do on the tabletop. We're then going to take a look at some other units we can use to expand upon this initial box set, and then finally, as always, finish off the video with a little sample army, this time of 1,000 points for Kings of War, for you to use hopefully as some inspiration for starting your own army. And so, to begin with, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the contents of the box set, because with our 1,000 point army at the end of the video, there's one model in this box set we won't be able to use due to the rule of one in Kings of War for war machines, and that is one of the Balefire catapults. Now this isn't too big an issue as they are under 100 points each, so we're not losing an awful lot of the points out of this box set. It is a very small portion of what we actually get, so you can easily add this in once you reach 1,500, so it will grant you, once we reach that 1,000, you're straight up to 1,100, and only got 400 more points to grab after that. So just something worth talking about before we get into talking about the units. And so, to begin with, first of all, we have 20 Skeleton Warriors or Skeleton Spearmen. Now, Skeleton Warriors are the cheaper option, and they can choose to have two-handed weapons if they want to gain some crushing strength. But for me, it is always the Skeleton Spearmen. As soon as I see phalanx on a unit, I immediately look to it over the other options. Yes, this does cost around 20 points more on each of the different variations of unit size, troop, regiments, and hordes. But for me, phalanx is just such a useful rule for line units. It stops crushing your opponent getting thunderous charge off, and stops, your opponent getting ordered charges and stuff like that. For me, really, really useful. Now, you do have a cool rule on them, which is under Giant Rats as an army special upgrade that they can take, and this increases their life leech by +1, which will actually take them to life leech 2, and then they've also got shambling as well, as you expect with a lot of undead based sort of troops. We then have the 20 zombies. They've got life leech 1. They can take undead giant rats as well, and they are dirt cheap. For a regiment of these guys, it is going to be 70 points, though they are defense 2 and melee 5+. So, they are not going to do absolutely anything for you, but they are going to be a super useful and cheap utility unit to have, hold your line, and potentially, be a throwaway unit. We then get 20 ghouls as well. These have life leech 1 and wild charge D3. Now they've got defense 3+ and melee 4+, which is pretty a-okay. It's actually better than the other two units we got here, so a little bit more offensive. They are quite cheap, taking in the troops for 70 points each. For me, I think they are excellent little flank protectors for the force. And they can also be used to attack as well and countercharge with that wild charge in there as well. Now we then get the two Balefire catapults. These have really cool weaponry with the 48-inch range, blast D3+1, ignores obscured, indirect, and piercing 2, the reload rule. But they also have the ability for unholy flames. Wherever a unit rolls to damage with its Balefire attack, it can reroll D3 of the dice that failed to damage. So it can be quite effective damage dealers, though range 5+ isn't great. But once you get those hits, the damage more than likely will go through on these nice catapults. Lastly, we have a Necromancer, and the Necromancer has a few different upgrades. First of all, we have the ability to mount them, though the one in this box set is unmounted, so we don't have that option in the box set. We can take an aura to give vicious melee to zombies only for 20 points, though this can't be taken if the model has a mount. I think this is a fantastic upgrade and can definitely make our zombies a little sort of missile pack to go in, deal some damage, and then probably get killed on the return, to be fair. You've got a bunch of other spells there as well, like Heal, Bane Charm, a particular favourite of mine. Weakness as well is another good spell, as is Drain Life. So a really nice, versatile repertoire of spells, though generally a lot more debuffing and healing than direct damage dealing. Now, if we start looking at where to go next, first of all, I think some cavalry are definitely an option. We've got a really good core of line troops and, sort of the main battle line with that initial box set in this set. So, Revenant Cavalry are the first of two cavalry options I want to talk about. They are much cheaper. You're going to get a regiment of these for slightly more than a troop of the Soul Reaver Cavalry, which we'll talk about in just a second. But they are going to have melee 4+, defense 5+, speed 8, life leech 1 as you expect for the death units, shambling, and thunderous charge 2. We have 8 attacks for a troop or 16 for a regiment that can really start to put out some damage. Now, the Soul Reaver Cavalry, on the other hand, they are going to be much more expensive, but they are going to be melee 3+. They're the same speed at speed 8 as your Revenant Cavalry, but they do have Crushing Strength 1 in there as well, Life Leech 2, and only Thunderous Charge 1. So they do lack a little bit of Thunderous Charge compared to the Revenant Cavalry, but they are, in general, going to hit a lot harder. Now, we then have the Wights. I think these are a really interesting unit. There are 3 real big options for a monstrous infantry unit to take here, which could be either your werewolves, your zombie trolls, or the Wights. But for me, it is the Wights that take it out for one key rule, and that is fly. Fly, for me, just means they're so much more useful on the battlefield. They can move a lot more freely. They've also got brutal, crushing strength too, so they actually have more crushing strength than werewolves. Though they have fly, which sort of makes up for the fact they would lose nimble out. And then, you know, shambling as you expect. 3+ for the melee, and a defense of 5+ is pretty standard and puts them above like zombie trolls, which are the cheapest option as well. But for me, it is that fly, and the extra crushing strength I think really makes up for nimble over werewolves, which are probably the other unit I would be considering. Now, mummies are the last one I want to talk about. Another great line unit. I think these really upgrade some of the other units we have in the line. Crushing Strength 2, Life Leech 1, Regeneration 5+, and Shambling. Defense 5+, they make for a really hardy infantry unit in the center of your lines. And so here we have our sample army list for you. Obviously, we are going with the Undead. And to start with, we have our zombies as a regiment. They've taken the Undead Giant Rats. I think being able to get Life Leech 2 on them is amazing. And then we've got 2 troops of ghouls. And of course, the Necromancer there with the Aura, Vicious Melee, Zombie only. Really buffing up that zombie unit. And this all provides us with a nice little set of missiles that can be used as offensive pieces, but they generally aren't going to survive the punch back. Now, weakness 2 is there as well. This is going to be really good, helping and making sure these units can do what they need to do. We then have probably our main line unit, which is the Skeleton Spearmen, a regiment with Undead Giant Rats. And then we have the Soul Reaver Cavalry troop for a nice heavy cavalry. And what's really cool, because they only have Thunderous Charge 1, and really it's the Crushing Strength 2 where they're going to do the big damage, they can also fill in as a line unit if we need them to as well, and do quite well at that job as well. A Balefire Catapult in there for the one and only we can take. Remember, you know, we can't take both of them in this army. And then we have the Revenant Cavalry Regiment as a nice offensive cavalry unit. So I think your Soul Reaver Cavalry are generally a cavalry that will counter punch. Meanwhile, your Revenant Cavalry can move up and really try and drive into your opponent's backline. Lastly, we have the Wights, which are a really versatile utility unit, can fill in our lines if need be. If the ghouls and zombies do get destroyed early, you know, we've got the Soul Reaver Cavalry and Wights to step into those lines. But all in all, 1,000 points of Undead. If you've been playing with the Undead in Kings of War, let us know how you've been going and your favourite units to use down in the comments below. And so that is the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come chat more with me, we have a Discord server for the channel, and that is linked down in the video's description. Also linked down in the video's description are the best ways to help support the channel. This is either via Patreon or YouTube members using one of our affiliate links and codes down there, like Baron of Dice, Gap Games, or Mithras Games, or by supporting us directly on Patreon or YouTube members. If you'd like to do any of those, we have links for that all in the description. And as a special thank you to our Patrons and YouTube members, we'd like to give them all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Q Dynamic, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Benjamin Swallows, Red Martin, Iron Grinch, Colorblind Magic, Grimscold, and Andy C. And our YouTube members, Greenridge Gaming, Ronya, Lock Loric, The Johnny84, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Revenar, Pink Nico Fire, Robin Mankiller, Monty's Tabletop Terrain, James Tillman, Disco, and John Castle. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you see on the channel. Once again, everyone, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.